to me is beneficial. We added discarding just to, a lot of that stuff's missing, right? It puts a brake on it.
I have a Delta 20-inch, and that's my problem. That thing there doesn't, you have to work to lift it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you put what, a counterbalance on the
Yeah, if you come look from this side. So that is a 3/8.
Oh yeah, that was great.
That's a 3-inch boot pipe. Not a renovation. It's just old copper waste. Okay? That I welded up. I just soldered copper on the top and bottom. And I filled it with sand.
I'll do the job.
Yep, I guess so.
Yeah. Because that's
Now
the
it's
problem
just
I
balanced.
have. I follow-
That's a typical
Oh, it just looks like
arrangement.
a neck on with the shaft.
Yeah. Well, this has a bit of a, this machining here allowed for a bit of play. A lot of what's wrong with a lot of modern machines is they don't stay, the guides don't stay, they're good here, and when you go up here, they're out. You know, there's, oh, coplanar doesn't matter. Well, okay, because then you don't have coplanar wheels, then your blade's on an angle. So now your thrust bearing is a different, this one, it is coplanar. And I argue with those people, but they don't get me. So, but they don't have a first.
I get it.
Do you have ring for this one and the one that is arriving?
That's the same as the one you brought.
So that's the tilting table version. That's the tilting saw version. That was the two models, both very rare. Okay, so the Wadkin PK, right? The greatest saw ever built, even better than the ones. No. Okay, so what's different about a PK saw? Okay, so that saw's made a saw, right? Advance. Start later. Okay, but it doesn't have a belt. The blade is actually attached to the motor. That's why the blade is so big. In comparison. Okay? First of all, that blade's too small for the saw right now. That takes an 18-inch blade, that's a 16-inch saw in here, and that is original stock factory. This saw came in 1920s with a riving knife, which everybody thinks is new. It's not new. Okay, so this can slide back and forth, and what that does is keeps pinching machines from coming back and forth. So when you push lumber through, because lumber is a natural material, there's tensions built in it and it'll want to pinch, and so that would keep it from pinching the back of the teeth, which rise and throw back at your face. A kickback. Okay? Americans are just catching on to technology that was 80 years old, and they're not even really catching on, they just come up with a saw stop. Just stop the blade, okay? So this stuff is really crown guard. You know, like this is 1920s design. So, you know, look at the crown guards you get for your saws, these little plastic things. No wonder you want to rip them off, they're horrible. So the riving knife is interesting, if you're not used to a riving knife. Now, of course, the PK is a highly precision saw. This saw particularly came out of Gibbard Furniture. So they were using it for 60 years. It was packed solid with sawdust, mahogany sawdust. It was worked day in, day out. It was in the fitting room. It was one of the main saws. They had this and two other Wadkin saws. They had a lot of British stuff. So what's different about when you tilt your saw is this saw tilts, and the gauge for tilting is actually the trunnion, and it's casted in solid bronze, which lubricates the trunnion so we don't add water, so we don't have a sawdust oil mixture that gums things up. Everything that moves in this saw is encased in oil baths, and you never gunk up anything. Okay? So here it is tilting out. So this is how you would tilt the saw. Okay? The whole case tilts out.
Wait.
Okay? Then this is a big, huge, so this is your lock for rise and fall. And like this is beautifully smooth. Like, it's incredibly smooth. It actually has in the table, embedded into the table, have to look it up. It's made by Chesterton, and they made precision measuring tools, sextants and stuff like that. This is the only thing that's not wagon, that's been inlaid to 16th of an inch. That's a hand-cut ruler to so precise. Same as these gauges in the table. There's an actual gauge etched into the table for specific parts. Okay, because it's a motor drive, it needs a big wheel because it has to get that blade above the motor before it can start to go. That's why it's a big blade. Okay, this was the original one of these was designed in the teens, and it was a line belt machine flat table. Many of those parts are still the same. Okay, so we'll tip this back, and it's pretty much balanced. You do gotta turn some stuff. Okay, table slides in and out. Little locks here, so the table will slide in and out. Wood lips, so you have zero clearance. Built right in. Okay, so you can put that. You can cut that if you wanted to. I leave it out because the blade spins so fast it doesn't chip. Okay. This is this saw started a revolution around the world that a lot of people started collecting this saw. I posted pictures of it, and developed a lot of people said, "Get one of these." And gratefully, we've saved a number of these saws, which most were just going into the tip and being sold at Walmart for fry pans, because people just saw them as old and useless. So it's a sliding table, okay, and that's a 7-year-old table. I hope I'm that good. You know, it's very smooth, okay? And that's just a testament to the ability of the craftsman back then to hand fit something, you know? And very heavy. We hold big doors on here, clamp them down in front, you know? So little oilers, oil bearings, little oilers. You don't change that bearing, you maintain that bearing. Little oilers, the sides, all adjusted. When I cleaned and took this apart, none of those were adjusted. They were still running true, working and giving. So it was made for that kind of quality. The quadrant, which is this portion, is very quite interesting.
Is that the part of testing of it?
We're going to actually cast one of these. And a number of people in the world are looking for this specific because it gets dropped, okay? So once it's said, it's etched. So you lock this down, and this is just, you know, whatever. You got to cut an angle. Everybody's got a miter gauge, right? But this is like a quadrant. So this has presets. See that drop in there? That's preset to 45. It's got a back one. There's a little scratch right here says miter. So you can slide this over here. I'm not sure I've got my glasses, but let's say it's there, and I lock that down. Now those become complementary. Now I can move the entire table, and those stay complementary. So let's say I want to join two pieces together at that angle. That is 4 inches thick, and that's 3 inches thick, and I want that miter to be the tip and the tip. Well, how do I do that? Well, you just loosen that, and you can see you can move that until those become complementary. You put your 3 inch on that side, and 2 inch on that side. Okay, and this will go into a couple back positions. I made this one. This is one I made because there was also another piece of cast iron. You could have big outriggers to support pieces. So I made one that bolts back here just to have pieces. There's a lot of people are missing these, and so I said, look, just make one. It doesn't have to be like that. It can just be a piece of plywood that you can make the saw useful. That's your crown guard. So typically you're supposed to cover the gullet, so you lower that down. And this is a piece on your nose. So you hardly ever adjust this. You would always adjust that. Keep your fingers set. Really modern stuff. Want to hear it? Want to hear it run? So this is 600 volts. No vibration. There is a just pay attention because that runs forever. I'm going to just stay and talk about it in front of you guys. It runs forever. I don't want someone to stick their hand in there. That is one beautiful saw, very inspiring to work on. Always. Yeah, so, yeah, that's okay. So, we build a lot of furniture sometimes when our clients can afford it. And so I made a few fixtures that weren't available. And anybody that's followed my stuff knows that's Jackifying. That's a name they sort of Jackified it. So this is a 10-min jig. So this sort of makes this possible to hold pieces upright, but also at a many angle. Okay, this can adjust. Okay, and then you would just slide your piece through. It needs to get a little adjusted there, but slide your piece past the fence. But this fence also tips. So the configuration that this thing can do is incredible. The tip, you can do new joints to the head without CNC. Okay, so I think that's fantastic. It has a micro adjustment. Okay, so this is about a 150-pound fence, but it's not that hard to move. Okay, it's a simple handle, slide it across. Okay, lock it down. That locks that down, but that doesn't lock that down so much that I can't use my micro adjustment. And that's, you know, how we fit stuff. You set the saw, and your micro adjustments. Everybody knows that micro adjustment, right? This, Wadkin said, you know what, let's do it this way. And it's smooth. Anybody want to try it? You can try it, see how smooth it is. And you don't need to lock the micro adjustment. It has a lock, but the fence is so rigid, you know.
How much a saw like this?
$100. We have some documentation that this saw was in 1960 about $2,800. So we equated that to about $20,000 today. That's kind of this is an inflationary adjustment to build to this quality today. You first of all don't have the tradespeople to do it anymore, so it would be more museum stuff, and it would probably cost $60,000 to reproduce it. But Wadkin made a lot of these saws. They made a lot of these saws, not all of them are in the garbage, so get one. Go get one. A lot of people are, yes, some of them like it. The most expensive I've seen this saw sell for, $2,500, and that's almost in a plug-play condition. With all of the gizmos. Most of them don't have this, but they're not a useless saw without that. Although with that, they're a masterpiece. It's really a masterpiece of a saw. I think that this is, in my opinion, I have people that argue with me constantly on the internet, but they don't argue too hard. That's probably the best single-purpose table saw ever made. Now there's some fine examples, and we had one thread that was called Battle of the Sliders. There's some really fine examples, but they're really rare, and the ones that were of this quality. This is a small one. Most of them are huge industrial. So this is really small, and it's really easy to work on. It's really close to the front. The blade on this is closer than the blade on my little 10-inch saw. So this is a really comfortable saw. The ergonomics, like, look at how much room I got here. Like, I got tons of room. You know, it's just a lovely saw to work on. The tilting blade comes out of the table, and when you tilt it, they put the pivot of that blade to maintain the exact position from that fence, no matter what angle that is. So if you cut 90 and it is, and I'm talking to within a thousandths of an inch. So if I read that tape measure here, no matter what the angle, that's the length it's going to be. Now, if you get a regular saw and you tip it, you got to check the fence. If it doesn't have shims in it and stuff like that. So there's just stuff that's, I'm still learning stuff about it, you know, what it can do, what it can possibly do, you know. And I mean, guys, it's a beautiful looking saw. So that's a real favorite of mine. That's really what got me. We don't, yeah, actually we do every day. We use that one a lot, but when we use that, it's for big stuff. So all of our doors and stuff, that because it has the capacity and the tolerances, and it cuts all our joints. Like it cut all the joints in that gate, you know, very quickly. It's just easy to do. It handles that size. We're comfortable with that because it comes on and off quickly. So we use that out of convenience. This one you saw, it took a little while, it takes a long time. So we set up and stuff.
The dust collection, that's
Yeah.
been designed?
Yeah, you just like watch. I'll actually. It's so efficiently designed. You can actually just shoot the dust right in. Well, what I like about this older stuff is it doesn't require dust collection. Although,
It's been designed that way.
well, it's been designed not to foul if dust collection isn't engaged, and so it doesn't clog up. See it flowing out? Yeah, we forget to hook it up. There's a big pile over there. So, and we forget to hook it up a lot of times. The blade spins so fast, it's odd when you first, it's so fast. The rim speed of that blade is twice the speed of that. It's turning at about 18,000 surface feet per minute, or 70 miles an hour. So that's why it cuts so clean and doesn't chip on the bottom. It's just spinning so fast. In fact, saw blade manufacturers say don't spin your blades that fast. But these bigger ones, they're at their upper speed. There's a little tag on the outside that says, tell your saw doctor to tension your blade to 3,600 RPM. And back in the day, the guy that sharpened your saw was a bit of a metallurgist himself, and he had anvils, and he would pound blades and put tension in them. So when they came up to speed, they'd go because of just the centrifugal force of the teeth flying. We're talking the big sawmills, but that's a big enough blade that would be that. This is a Stenner of England chain chisel mortiser. There's no other example.